Jasmine Winters adjusted her formal diplomatic robes as she stepped off the transport vessel onto Celestial Station. The massive space station hung like a jewel in space, its crystalline architecture reflecting the light of three nearby suns. As Earth's newest diplomatic envoy, she knew the importance of making a good first impression, especially given humans' relatively recent addition to the Galactic Council. The welcome chamber took her breath away. Sheets of living crystal formed elegant archways that seemed to sing with subtle harmonies as different species passed beneath them. The architecture itself was a testament to the artistic genius of the Stellarians, a crystalline species who had designed and built most of the major diplomatic hubs in this sector of space. "Welcome to Celestial Station, Envoy Winters." The voice seemed to chime rather than speak, resonating in her chest like the notes of a crystal glass. Jasmine turned and found herself face to face with a being that appeared to be carved from living sapphire. Light rippled through their crystalline form in complex patterns that somehow conveyed expression and emotion. Their core pulsed with a soft blue radiance that reminded her of Earth's oceans. "I am Korak's cultural liaison for the station," they continued, their voice creating subtle harmonics that made Jasmine's skin tingle. "I will be your guide during your stay here." "Thank you, Liaison Korax," Jasmine bowed slightly following the protocol she'd studied. "I look forward to learning from you." Was it her imagination, or did the patterns of light within Korax shift to a warmer hue? She'd been briefed about Stellarian emotional expressions, but seeing them in person was entirely different from studying them in reports. "Your pronunciation is excellent," Korax commented, the crystalline facets of their form catching the light as they moved. "Few humans master the harmonic undertones of our names so quickly." Jasmine felt warmth rise to her cheeks at the praise. "I've always had an ear for music. Perhaps that helps with understanding your language's resonances." "Fascinating." Korax's form shimmered with what she recognized as curiosity. "We Stellarians often say that music is the universal language, yet few species truly grasp our harmonic forms of communication." As they walked through the station's corridors, Jasmine found herself captivated by the way Korax moved. Unlike the rigid crystal they appeared to be made of, their form flowed with a liquid grace. Light played through their translucent body, creating ever-changing patterns that seemed to dance with their emotions. "The human delegation's quarters have been prepared according to your environmental requirements," Korax explained, leading her through a series of increasingly beautiful passages. "Though I must admit we found some of your specifications intriguing." Oh, Jasmine smiled. "Which ones?" The concept of a soft bed was particularly puzzling. We Stellarians regenerate while partially merged with our crystal matrices. The idea of resting on compressed fiber materials seems quite foreign. Jasmine laughed, then quickly caught herself, worried it might seem unprofessional. But Korax's form brightened at the sound, their crystalline surface rippling with patterns she hadn't seen before. "That sound, your laughter," they said, their voice resonating with curiosity. "It creates the most interesting harmonic patterns. Would you mind doing it again?" Now Jasmine did blush. "I'm not sure I can laugh on command. It's something that happens naturally when we're amused or happy." "Happiness has its own frequency," Korax mused, their form shifting to reflect a deep blue hue. "Perhaps humans and Stellarians have more in common than our physical forms would suggest." As they reached her quarters, Jasmine found herself reluctant for their conversation to end. Something about Korax's presence was both soothing and exciting, like listening to a perfect piece of music for the first time. "Will I see you again?" she asked, then quickly added, "For official business, of course." Korax's form shimmered with what might have been amusement. "We have many diplomatic functions ahead of us, Envoy Winters, but perhaps if you're interested I could also show you our harmonic gardens. Few non-Stellarians have experienced them, but given your appreciation for our harmonics, I believe you might find them enlightening." "I'd love that," Jasmine replied, perhaps too quickly. She composed herself and added more formally, "It would be valuable for fostering cultural understanding between our species." Indeed, was there a hint of playfulness in those harmonic overtones? "Rest well, Envoy Winters. Tomorrow brings many new frequencies to explore." As Korax's crystalline form glided away, Jasmine entered her quarters and leaned against the door, her heart beating faster than usual. The room was beautiful, a perfect blend of human comfort and Stellarian aesthetics. Crystal formations grew from the walls in elegant spirals, humming soft, soothing notes that reminded her of wind chimes. She walked to the viewport, gazing out at the star-studded expanse. The three suns were setting now, their light creating rainbow refractions through the station's crystal structure. Somewhere in those corridors, Korax was probably going about their duties, their form catching and transforming light into those mesmerizing patterns. "Focus, Jasmine," she muttered to herself. You're here as a diplomat, not a tourist. But even as she unpacked her belongings and reviewed her briefing materials, her mind kept drifting back to the way Corax's voice had resonated within her, like a song she'd always known but never heard before. She activated her personal log, speaking softly. First day on Celestial Station. The architecture is even more impressive than the briefings suggested. The Stellarians have created something truly remarkable here. My cultural liaison, she paused, choosing her words carefully. Liaison Corax seems very knowledgeable and surprisingly approachable for a crystalline being. I look forward to learning more about their culture. A soft chime interrupted her recording, a message on her diplomatic channel. Her heart skipped when she saw it was from Corax. Envoy Winters, I hope you're settling in well. The harmonic gardens are particularly resonant during the third sun's rise. Would tomorrow's early cycle be agreeable for your tour? The frequencies are quite special at that time. Jasmine smiled as she composed her reply, trying to maintain professional diplomacy despite her excitement. That would be perfect, Liaison Corax. I look forward to experiencing these special frequencies with you. As she prepared for sleep, the room's crystal formations hummed a gentle lullaby, their notes somehow reminiscent of Corax's voice. Jasmine drifted off wondering if it was possible to dream in harmonics, and if somewhere in this vast station, a being of living crystal might be thinking of her too. The harmonic gardens were unlike anything Jasmine had ever experienced. Crystal formations of varying sizes grew in spiraling patterns, each emanating its own unique frequency. As she walked beside Corax in the early station cycle, the combined harmonies created a symphony that seemed to resonate with her very soul. These formations, Corax explained, their form glowing softly in the light of the rising third sun, have grown naturally over centuries. Each crystal cluster responds to emotional energies around it, creating what we call the Song of Being. Jasmine reached out instinctively toward a particularly beautiful formation, then quickly withdrew her hand. I'm sorry, I should have asked first. You may touch them, Corax said, their voice carrying an undertone that might have been gentle amusement. They respond to all forms of life, not just Stellarians. Hesitantly, Jasmine placed her hand on the crystal. A warm resonance immediately spread through her arm, and the formation began to emit a sweet, clear note that somehow reminded her of sunrise on Earth. Beautiful, Corax whispered, moving closer. The crystals rarely respond so strongly to non-Stellarians. You must have quite the emotional harmony. Jasmine became acutely aware of Corax's proximity. Light rippled through their crystalline form in patterns she was beginning to recognize as pleasure or satisfaction. Is that why you brought me here so early, to see how I would interact with the gardens? Partially, Corax admitted, but also because. They paused as another station resident, a Veldari with flowing silver fur, entered the gardens. Immediately, Corax shifted to a more formal posture, their light patterns becoming more subdued. Because understanding between species begins with sharing our most precious places. The moment had broken, and Jasmine felt its loss keenly. She withdrew her hand from the crystal, which gave a final melodious tone before returning to its baseline harmony. We should proceed to the diplomatic chamber, Corax said, their voice now carrying the proper formal resonance. The trade. The harmonic gardens were unlike anything Jasmine had ever experienced. Crystal formations of varying sizes grew in spiraling patterns, each emanating its own unique frequency. As she walked beside Corax in the early station cycle, the combined harmonies created a symphony that seemed to resonate with her very soul. These formations, Corax explained, their form glowing softly in the light of the rising third sun, have grown naturally over centuries. Each crystal cluster responds to emotional energies around it, creating what we call the Song of Being. Jasmine reached out instinctively toward a particularly beautiful formation, then quickly withdrew her hand. I'm sorry, I should have asked first. You may touch them, Corax said, their voice carrying an undertone that might have been gentle amusement. They respond to all forms of life, not just Stellarians. Hesitantly, Jasmine placed her hand on the crystal. A warm resonance immediately spread through her arm, and the formation began to emit a sweet, clear note that somehow reminded her of sunrise on Earth. Beautiful, Corax whispered, moving closer. The crystals rarely respond so strongly to non-Stellarians. You must have quite the emotional harmony. Jasmine became acutely aware of Corax's proximity. Light rippled through their crystalline form in patterns she was beginning to recognize as pleasure or satisfaction. Is that why you brought me here so early, to see how I would interact with the gardens? Partially, Corax admitted, but also because. They paused as another station resident, a Veldari with flowing silver fur, entered the gardens. Immediately, Corax shifted to a more formal posture, their light patterns becoming more subdued. Because understanding between species begins with sharing our most precious places. The moment had broken, and Jasmine felt its loss keenly. She withdrew her hand from the crystal, which gave a final melodious tone before returning to its baseline harmony. "We should proceed to the diplomatic chamber," Korax said, their voice now carrying the proper formal resonance. "The annual Galactic Cultural Exchange Summit begins in 30 minutes. Throughout the day's proceedings, Jasmine found herself stealing glances at Korax, who stood perfectly still at their designated post. Their crystalline form caught the light differently in the formal chamber, all sharp edges and professional angles. She missed the flowing, musical patterns she'd witnessed in the gardens. The summit discussions centered around expanding cultural exchange programs between species, but the underlying tension was clear. Many races still held deep reservations about close interaction between different species. Every proposal came with carefully worded restrictions and limitations. During a brief recess, Jasmine approached Korax with a datapad. "Liaison Korax, could you clarify the Stellarian position on allowing other species to study your harmonic communication methods?" Their form shifted slightly, creating a subtle pattern that seemed almost sad. "Our official position remains unchanged, Envoy Winters. While we welcome cultural appreciation, the deeper aspects of our harmonic abilities must remain private to our species." "Even though you've seen how others might understand them," Jasmine asked quietly, thinking of the garden. Korax's surface rippled with complex patterns before settling. "What happens in diplomatic settings must follow diplomatic protocols. Surely humans understand this concept." "We do," Jasmine sighed, "all too well." She thought of her own diplomatic briefing. "Maintain professional distance, respect species boundaries, avoid any appearance of particular attachment to individual aliens." The day continued with more discussions, more careful negotiations, more subtle barriers being reinforced even as they talked about breaking them down. By the time the summit concluded, Jasmine felt drained. As delegates filed out of the chamber, Korax approached her workstation. "You seem troubled, Envoy Winters." "Just thinking about frequencies," she replied, keeping her voice professional. "How some harmonies seem natural, yet we build such complex systems to keep them separate." Light danced through Korax's form in a pattern she hadn't seen before. "Perhaps," they said softly, their voice carrying undertones that made her skin tingle, "you would benefit from another visit to the gardens, to better understand our cultural perspectives, of course." "Of course," Jasmine agreed, her heart beating faster. "For diplomatic purposes." "The gardens are particularly resonant during the sleep cycle," Korax added, their voice barely above a whisper. "When fewer species are seeking cultural understanding." As they parted ways, maintaining proper diplomatic distance, Jasmine couldn't help but smile. Perhaps there were harmonies that no protocol could fully silence. The harmonic gardens were different during sleep cycle. Without other species present, the crystals seemed to sing more freely, their harmonies weaving together in complex patterns that made Jasmine's heart soar. She sat on a meditation platform, watching Korax's form dance with shifting lights as they moved among the formations. "Each crystal tells a story," Korax explained, their voice softer and more intimate than their formal diplomatic tones. "This one speaks of the first meeting between Stellarians and the Veldari. They touched another formation. This remembers the great stellar explosion that created the Rainbow Nebula." "Can they remember everything?" Jasmine asked, fascinated by how the crystals responded to Korax's presence, their songs becoming more complex and beautiful. "Not everything, only moments of strong emotional resonance." Korax moved closer to her, their crystalline form glowing with subtle warmth, like now. Before Jasmine could respond, the station's emergency alert system blared to life. Red warning lights pulsed through the gardens, disrupting the delicate harmonies. "Alert, quantum anomaly detected. All residents proceed to designated safety zones. Repeat, quantum anomaly detected." Korax's form instantly shifted to emergency protocols, their surface becoming more angular and alert. "We must." The station shuddered violently. Jasmine lost her balance and would have fallen if Korax hadn't caught her. The moment of contact sent an electric thrill through her body. Korax's crystalline form was warm and thrumming with energy. "The gardens aren't a designated safety zone," Korax said urgently, still holding her. "We need to." Another tremor rocked the station, stronger this time. The crystal formations around them began resonating at increasingly unstable frequencies, their harmonies becoming discordant. "The quantum anomaly is affecting the crystal matrices," Korax realized, their voice carrying undertones of worry. "If the resonance patterns destabilize completely." The whole station could be compromised, Jasmine finished. She'd studied enough about Stellarian architecture to understand the danger. Can you stabilize them? Not alone, Corex's form pulsed with stress patterns. It would take multiple Stellarians and everyone else is in the residential sectors. Jasmine touched one of the vibrating crystals. Like before it responded to her, its chaotic frequencies calming slightly. What if I help? That's impossible, Corex protested. Non-Stellarians can't. They stopped as Jasmine placed her other hand on a different crystal, establishing a harmonic connection between them. I can feel the frequencies, she said. Guide me. For a moment, Corex seemed torn between protocol and necessity. Then another tremor shook the station and they made their decision. Moving behind Jasmine, they placed their crystalline hands over hers. The sensation was indescribable. Through the contact, Jasmine could feel the music of Corex's being complex, beautiful, and currently focused on stabilizing the garden's resonance patterns. Following their lead, she let herself become part of the harmony. Together, they moved through the garden, touching crystal after crystal, bringing their chaotic frequencies back into alignment. Each success made their connection stronger until Jasmine couldn't tell where her consciousness ended and Corex's began. They were simply part of the greater song. Time lost meaning. There was only the music, the warm presence of Corex surrounding her, and the gradual restoration of harmony to the gardens. When the last crystal stabilized, Jasmine felt almost drunk on the residual resonance. That was, she turned to face Corex, their forms still connected. Impossible, Corex whispered, their surface rippling with colors she'd never seen before. No non-Stellarian has ever joined the harmony like that, ever. The station's alert system chimed again, quantum anomaly contained, all residents may return to normal activities. Repeat, all clear. Neither of them moved. The garden's crystals hummed around them, their songs somehow different now, as if remembering and celebrating what had just happened. This changes everything, Corex said softly, their form still shimmering with new patterns. The protocols, the separation between species, everything we thought we knew about harmonic resonance. Perhaps, Jasmine suggested, her voice equally soft, some frequencies were meant to be shared. The crystals around them sang in agreement, their harmonies weaving together in what sounded remarkably like a love song. News of what happened in the harmonic garden spread quickly through Celestial Station. While the official report mentioned only that a human diplomat had assisted in stabilizing crystal resonances during the quantum anomaly, whispered conversations in the corridors carried a different tone. Some spoke of impossible harmonies, of boundaries crossed that had never been crossed before. Jasmine noticed the changes immediately. Other Stellarians watched her with increased interest, their crystalline forms flickering with what might have been curiosity or concern. The Veldari delegates seemed particularly disturbed, their silver fur bristling whenever she passed. But it was Corex's sudden distance that hurt the most. Liaison Corex, she called out, catching sight of their distinctive blue crystalline form in the diplomatic wing. Do you have a moment? Corex's surface rippled with complicated patterns before settling into formal opacity. Envoy Winters, I apologize, but I have pressing matters to attend to. You've been avoiding me for 3 days, Jasmine said quietly, after what we shared in the gardens. What happened in the gardens was an anomaly, Corex interrupted, their voice carrying none of its usual warmth. One that has caught the attention of the Stellarian High Council. Jasmine felt her heart sink, the High Council. They are concerned about the implications. Corex's form shifted uncomfortably. They've arranged a traditional bonding ceremony for me, with Nexar, a highly respected crystalline architect. The words hit Jasmine like a physical blow, a bonding ceremony, but... It is a great honor, Corex said, their voice now completely formal. Nexar's resonance patterns are considered among the most perfect in our society. Our harmonies will strengthen the entire crystalline network. And what about our harmony? Jasmine asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. What we created together was real, Corex, you felt it too. For a moment, Corex's surface rippled with colors that spoke of pain and longing, then they stilled, becoming almost opaque. What I feel is irrelevant. I have responsibilities to my people, to our traditions. Surely you understand this as a diplomat. I understand that we're letting fear of difference keep us from something beautiful, Jasmine replied. She reached out, almost touching Corex's crystalline surface before pulling back. The universe showed us something new, something wonderful, and we're just going to ignore it. Some frequencies were never meant to harmonize, Corex said, but their voice wavered with undertones that contradicted their words. A group of Stellarian delegates approached, their forms glowing with formal patterns. Among them was one whose crystalline surface shimmered with exceptional complexity, Nexar, Jasmine presumed. "Excuse me, Envoy Winters," Korax said stiffly. "I must attend to my duties." Jasmine watched them go, joining the other Stellarians who immediately surrounded them in a display of unified crystalline resonance. The harmonies they created were technically perfect, she had to admit, but they lacked the wild beauty, the unexpected joy of what she and Korax had shared. Back in her quarters, Jasmine pressed her hand against one of the crystal formations growing from the wall. It hummed in response, but the song was muted, almost sad. Or perhaps that was just her own emotions being reflected back at her. She activated her personal log. The Stellarians believe in perfect harmonies, in carefully arranged resonances that follow traditional patterns. But what if true perfection lies in the unexpected, in the harmonies we never knew were possible until we dared to try them? A message alert chimed not on her diplomatic channel but on her personal device. It was from Korax. "The bonding ceremony is in 2 days. After that, all irregular frequencies must cease. But until then, the gardens still remember our song, if you wish to hear it one last time." Jasmine closed her eyes, feeling tears slip down her cheeks. The crystal formation under her hand changed its tune, harmonizing with her grief, and underneath it, a hint of hope. After all, even the most rigid crystal could be transformed by the right resonance. The Stellarian bonding chamber was a masterpiece of crystalline architecture. Towering spires of living crystal reached toward the stars, each one tuned to a specific harmonic frequency. When they resonated together, they created music that was said to echo the very heartbeat of the universe. Jasmine stood at the back of the chamber, her diplomatic position requiring her presence at such a significant cultural event. The room was filled with beings from across the galaxy, though the Stellarians held the positions of honor near the central resonance platform. Korax stood there now, their blue crystalline form somehow dimmer than Jasmine remembered. Beside them was Nexar, whose complex crystalline patterns drew admiring murmurs from the assembled crowd. They would make a perfect match, everyone agreed. Their harmonies would follow the ancient patterns, maintain the proper order of things. The bonding master, a Stellarian elder whose form had grown intricate with centuries of accumulated wisdom, stepped forward to begin the ceremony. "Today, we celebrate the joining of 2 harmonious frequencies." But before they could continue, the crystals of the chamber began to sing. Not the formal, traditional harmonies of a bonding ceremony, but something wild and beautiful, the exact melody that had emerged when Jasmine and Korax had saved the harmonic gardens together. The assembled crowd murmured in confusion. The bonding master's form flickered with concern. "The crystal matrix appears to be malfunctioning. We will pause while." "It's not malfunctioning," Korax's voice rang out, carrying harmonics that made every crystal in the chamber vibrate in sympathy. "It's remembering what happens when we let ourselves discover new songs." They stepped away from Nexar, their form beginning to glow with increasing brightness. "We Stellarians pride ourselves on our perfect harmonies, our carefully maintained frequencies. But what if our perfection has become a prison? What if there are songs we've never heard because we're too afraid to let ourselves learn new melodies?" "This is highly irregular," the bonding master protested, but the crystals sang louder, drowning out their objection. Korax moved through the crowd toward Jasmine. With each step, their crystalline form rippled with colors that spoke of courage, of hope, of love. "When the quantum anomaly threatened our station, it wasn't perfect Stellarian harmonies that saved us. It was an impossible duet, a song that should never have existed but did." They reached out and took Jasmine's hand. The moment they touched, the chamber's crystals erupted in a symphony of joy. Every being present felt it, a harmony that defied explanation but felt undeniably right. "Our ancestors built these chambers to celebrate the joining of compatible frequencies," Korax continued, their voice carrying to every corner of the room. "But they never defined what compatible meant. They couldn't have imagined all the possibilities the universe might contain." Nexar stepped forward, their crystalline surface showing not anger but understanding. "I feel it," they said softly. "The resonance between you, it's different from our traditional harmonies but no less perfect." The bonding master's form shifted through several patterns before settling into one that spoke of reluctant acceptance. "In all my centuries, I have never witnessed such a thing, but perhaps—" They touched one of the singing crystal spires. "Perhaps our ancestors built these chambers not just to preserve our old songs but to discover new ones." Jasmine squeezed Korax's hand, feeling the warm thrum of their energy responding to her touch. "Every culture in the galaxy has some form of music," she said. "Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe it's the universe's way of telling us that harmony can exist between any beings who are brave enough to try singing together." The chamber's crystals swelled into a crescendo. weaving together melodies that had never been heard before, Stellarian harmonics blending with patterns that somehow echoed human heartbeats, creating something entirely new and wonderfully alive. One by one, the other Stellarians in the chamber began to resonate with the new frequency. Even Nexar joined in, their perfect patterns shifting to accommodate this unexpected song. The other species present felt it too, a breaking down of barriers that had seemed unbreakable, a recognition that love might take forms they had never imagined. The old protocols served their purpose, Korax said, their form now pulsing with joy that made them almost too bright to look at. They protected us, guided us, but now it's time for new harmonies, time to discover what songs we might create together. The bonding master raised their crystalline hands. Then let us celebrate a different kind of bonding today, not one that follows the old patterns, but one that creates new ones. May your harmony show us all what is possible when we dare to sing new songs. As Jasmine and Korax's frequencies merged in the ancient chamber, the crystals of celestial stations sang with them, their music echoing across the stars, a promise that love, like light through crystal, could split into infinite beautiful possibilities.